I stood at the kitchen table with my graduation speech in my hand, and my mother looked at me like I'd committed a crime. "Jenny, we need to talk about your speech." I'd spent 3 weeks writing it, every word chosen carefully, every pause measured. I'd practiced in front of the mirror until my reflection knew it by heart. The speech was good. I knew it was good. It captured everything about resilience, about finding your voice when the world tried to silence you, about becoming someone despite the obstacles. "What about it?" My father set down his coffee cup. The sound echoed in the silence that followed. "Your sister is also giving a speech at the ceremony, as salutatorian." "I know, I'm valedictorian." My mother's fingers drummed against the countertop. "That's exactly the problem. Your speech is too ambitious, too personal. It draws too much attention." I felt something cold settle in my chest. It's supposed to draw attention. I'm the valedictorian. "Elena worked very hard to be salutatorian," my father said. His voice carried that familiar tone, the one that meant the decision was already made, and this conversation was just a formality. "Her speech is beautiful, hopeful, appropriate." "And mine isn't?" My mother reached across the table, her hand hovering over my papers, but not quite touching them. "Yours is intense. It makes people uncomfortable. It's about struggling and fighting and proving yourself. Elena's speech is about unity and gratitude. It's what people want to hear." "So, rewrite it," my father said. "Make it simpler, shorter. Let your sister have her moment without overshadowing her." The words hit me like a physical blow. Let her have her moment? This is my moment. I earned the highest GPA in our class. I earned the right to give this speech. "Your sisters," my mother said softly. "You should support each other. Eleanor has been so stressed about living up to you. This is important to her." "It's important to me too." "Then you'll understand why we're asking you to make this small sacrifice." My father stood, straightening his tie. "Rewrite the speech. Focus on the school's achievements as a whole. Be humble. Be gracious. Don't make it about you." He walked out. My mother followed. I stood there holding my speech. My words, my truth, my 3 weeks of careful work, and felt them dismissing it as if it were nothing. Eleanor appeared in the doorway. She didn't meet my eyes. "I didn't ask them to do that." "But you're not telling them to stop." She shifted her weight. "My speech is important to me, Jenny. I worked hard on it. I just don't want to be compared to you again. I never measure up." "So I have to shrink myself?" "I didn't say that." But she didn't deny it either. She left me standing there, alone with my forbidden words. I rewrote the speech that night, stripped away everything personal, removed every line that had power, made it generic and forgettable and safe. I turned my voice into Outshined, background noise so Elena could shine. The graduation ceremony arrived warm and bright. I stood at the podium and delivered my revised speech. The one my parents approved, the one that wouldn't outshine anyone. The audience applauded politely. No one's life was changed. No one remembered it 5 minutes later. Then Eleanor took the stage. Her speech was good, genuinely good. She talked about community and growth and the bonds we'd formed. The audience loved it. They gave her a standing ovation. My parents beamed. My father recorded every second. My mother cried proud tears. No one looked at me. At the reception afterward, relatives congratulated Eleanor. They told her how moving her speech was, how mature and wise she sounded. A few people nodded at me politely and said, "Nice job," before turning back to my sister. I stood by the punch bowl and felt myself disappearing. My boyfriend, Daniel, found me there. "Hey, you okay?" "I'm fine." "That wasn't the speech you showed me." I made some revisions. He studied my face. Your parents asked you to change it, didn't they? I didn't answer. He knew. He'd always known how things worked in my family. He'd watched me dim myself for years, told me it was temporary, that once we graduated and moved away together, things would be different. It doesn't matter, I said. It's over now. It matters to me. He took my hand. You deserved better than that. But he didn't fight for me. He didn't stand up to my parents. He just held my hand and let me believe that sympathy was the same as support. The weeks after graduation blurred together. College acceptance letters arrived. I'd gotten into several excellent schools, including one across the country that offered a full scholarship. It was everything I'd worked toward. That's too far, my mother said when I showed her the letter. There are good schools closer to home. This is the best program in the country for what I want to study. Elena's going to State University. We thought you could go together, room together, support each other. There it was again. Support each other, code for take care of your sister, make sure she's comfortable, put her needs first. I don't want to go to State. My father looked up from his newspaper. The scholarship is generous, but there are other expenses, living costs, travel. It's not practical. We'll help you with State, my mother added quickly. We've already set aside money for both of you, but if you go across the country, you'll be on your own financially. I felt the trap closing. They'd help Eleanor no matter where she went. But my help came with conditions. Stay close, stay small, stay in her shadow. Daniel told me to take the State acceptance. We can both go there, he said. Be together. Isn't that what matters? What about my scholarship, my program? There are other programs, other opportunities. He kissed my forehead. Sometimes you have to compromise for the people you love. I compromised. I accepted State, turned down the scholarship, watched my future narrow into something manageable and safe and convenient for everyone else. Eleanor was thrilled. We picked out dorm decorations together, made plans for our room. She talked excitedly about finally having a normal relationship with me, about not competing anymore. I smiled and agreed, and felt something inside me go quiet. College began. Eleanor struggled with the coursework. She'd always been good enough for high school, but university demanded more. She stayed up late studying, stressed and anxious. I helped her, edited her papers, explained concepts she didn't understand, sacrificed my own work to make sure she stayed afloat. I don't know what I'd do without you, she said one night, exhausted after I'd spent 3 hours helping her prepare for an exam. You're so smart. Everything comes so easily to you. It didn't come easily. I worked constantly. But I did it quietly, invisibly, so she wouldn't feel bad about herself. Daniel and I drifted. He joined a fraternity, made new friends, started spending less time with me and more time at parties I wasn't invited to. When I questioned it, he said I was being clingy. You're always busy helping Eleanor anyway, he said. I'm just giving you space. The space grew wider. I felt it, but couldn't name it. Couldn't admit that the person who'd promised to be my partner was slowly becoming a stranger. Second semester, Eleanor met someone. His name was Ryan. He was pre-med, confident, ambitious, everything she usually claimed to find intimidating. But he liked her, pursued her, made her feel special. She glowed, came home giggling about their dates, showed me his texts, asked my advice about what to wear, what to say, how to be the girl he'd want. I helped her. Of course I helped her. That's what I did. Then, one night, I came back to our dorm early. Eleanor wasn't there, but Daniel was, sitting on her bed, looking at his phone with an expression I couldn't read. What are you doing here? He startled. Oh, hey, I was looking for you. In Elena's room? I thought you might be here. Something felt wrong. The air was too still, his explanation too quick. Where's Elena? Library, I think. He stood. Want to grab dinner? I let it go. Pushed down the unease, told myself I was being paranoid, but the wrongness lingered. I started noticing small things. Daniel texting constantly. Eleanor's phone lighting up with messages she'd quickly hide. The two of them talking in lowered voices that stopped when I entered rooms. When I asked Daniel about it, he said I was imagining things. When I asked Elena, she said I was stressed and seeing patterns that weren't there. So I stopped asking, turned inward, tried to convince myself that my instincts were wrong. The truth revealed itself on an ordinary Tuesday. I forgot my biology textbook and went back to the dorm between classes, opened the door to find Daniel and Eleanor on her bed, not studying, not talking, his hands in her hair, her lips on his neck. They broke apart. Eleanor's face went white. Daniel stood straightening his shirt. Jenny, I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The world tilted and I was falling through it. It just happened, Eleanor said. Her voice shook. We didn't mean for it to happen. How long? They looked at each other. That look told me everything. 2 months, Daniel finally said. We tried to fight it, but we have this connection. 2 months. My voice sounded distant, mechanical. You've been lying to me for 2 months. We didn't want to hurt you, Eleanor whispered. That's why we didn't say anything. We were trying to figure out what to do. I looked at my sister, the person I'd protected and helped and sacrificed for, the person I'd made myself smaller for again and again. All those nights I helped you study, I said slowly. All those times you asked for advice about Ryan. You were actually seeing Daniel. She nodded, tears on her cheeks. I'm sorry, I know it's wrong, but I love him. Daniel reached for me. You have to understand. Get out. Jenny, please, get out. He left. Eleanor stayed, crying, apologising, explaining how it wasn't planned, how feelings developed, how she couldn't help who she loved. I listened with that same mechanical distance. Felt nothing. Said nothing. Just let her words wash over me until she finally stopped talking and left me alone. I called my parents, told them what happened. My mother's first response, oh no, Elena must be devastated. Elena? She's so sensitive. This kind of guilt will eat her alive. You need to talk to her, honey. Let her know you'll work through this together. Work through her betrayal? It's not that simple, my father said, having picked up the other phone. These things happen. People develop feelings. You're all so young. You can't let this destroy your relationship with your sister. She slept with my boyfriend. And that was wrong, my mother said quickly. Of course it was, you're wrong. But she didn't do it to hurt you. She's scared right now. She needs her sister. The words crystallized something inside me. Even now, even in this, I was expected to comfort Eleanor, to manage her guilt, to make it easier for her. I need to go, I said. Jenny, wait! I hung up, sat on my bed in the empty room. Felt the weight of every sacrifice I'd ever made, every time I dimmed my light so someone else could shine. I thought about my graduation speech, the real one, the one about finding your voice and refusing to be silenced. I'd silenced myself, for all of them. The days that followed were grey and shapeless. I moved through classes like a ghost. Eleanor tried talking to me constantly, apologising, explaining, justifying. I responded in monosyllables or not at all. Daniel sent texts, long paragraphs about confusion and feelings and how sorry he was. I deleted them without reading past the first line. My parents called every other day. Each conversation the same. They were worried about Elena. She wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, was consumed with guilt. Could I please just talk to her? Could I please help her through this? No one asked how I was doing. I requested a room change. The housing office said they'd see what they could do, but it might take a few weeks. So, I stayed in that dorm room with my sister, the space between us thick with everything unsaid. At night, I couldn't sleep. My mind circled endlessly through memories, piecing together all the moments I'd missed or ignored. The pattern was so clear now. My whole life shaped around making space for Eleanor, for Daniel, for anyone but myself. I thought about the scholarship I'd turned down, the future I'd surrendered, the voice I'd silenced in that graduation speech, every choice I'd made to be smaller, quieter, less. And for what? To protect people who didn't protect me, to love people who loved me conditionally, to sacrifice myself for relationships that were always going to end like this. One night, about 3 weeks after the betrayal, I couldn't take the silence anymore. The walls of the dorm felt like they were closing in. I got up, started walking. Didn't know where I was going until I found myself at the campus bridge, the one that stretched over the ravine, the one students were always warned to be careful on. I stood at the railing, looked down at the darkness below, felt the emptiness inside me match the emptiness out there. A breeze moved through the trees. The world was very quiet. I thought, this is what it feels like to not matter, to give and give until there's nothing left, to love people who only love the version of you that serves them. I thought, I'm so tired. My hands rested on the cold metal. The night stretched around me, infinite and indifferent. I remembered my mother's voice on the phone. Elena needs her sister. My father's dismissal. These things happen. Eleanor's tears. I love him. No one had said, Jenny, what do you need? No one had asked, Jenny, how can we help you? I was the helper, the supporter, the one who made sacrifices. That was my role. And when I had nothing left to give, when I was broken and bleeding from their choices, I was still expected to be the strong one, to forgive, to understand, to make it easier for them. I didn't jump. I wouldn't give a name to what I did. I just let go. Let go of the railing. Let go of trying. Let gravity make the choice I couldn't. The fall lasted forever and no time at all. Wind and darkness and a strange sense of peace. Finally, I thought, finally, it's over. The impact was softer than expected, quieter, like slipping into deep water. And then, nothing. I woke up in my childhood bedroom. The walls were pale yellow, posters I'd taken down years ago hung in their familiar places. My old desk sat by the window, covered in textbooks I recognised. I sat up, slowly. My body felt strange, lighter, younger. I looked at my hands. They were smaller. No calluses from years of writing, no scar from the time I'd cut my finger cooking for Eleanor. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. The date glowed at me. June 1st, 4 years ago, 2 weeks before graduation. I was 17 again. My heart pounded. I stood up, walked to the mirror. My face stared back. Younger, less tired, but unmistakably mine. This wasn't a dream. The memories were too sharp, the death too real. I'd been given something. A second chance, a do-over. The weight of it settled over me. I could do everything differently. I could protect myself. I could choose myself. I wouldn't waste it. My door opened. My mother leaned in. Jenny, are you awake? We need to talk about your graduation speech. The words hit me like electricity. I knew this moment. I'd lived it before. What about my speech? My voice came out steady, calm. I was watching the scene from outside myself. Come downstairs. Your father and I want to discuss something. She left. I sat there, processing. This was the moment, the beginning of the pattern. The first time I'd been asked to make myself smaller. Not this time. I went downstairs, sat at the kitchen table, watched my parents exchange glances. "Your speech is very good," my father began. Same words, same tone. "But your sister is also giving a speech and we think..." "No." They blinked at me. "No?" my mother repeated. "I'm not rewriting my speech." My father's expression hardened. "Jenny, we're not asking." "I know you're not asking. You're telling, but I'm also telling. The answer is no." "This is about supporting your sister," my mother said. "Elena has worked so hard." "So have I. Harder, actually. That's why I'm valedictorian and she's salutatorian." The words came out clear and unapologetic. I watched them land, watched my parents struggle to process my sudden backbone. "You're being selfish," my father said. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm being fair. I earned this. I get to keep it." My mother's face flushed. "You're purposely trying to make your sister look bad." "No. I'm refusing to make myself look worse, so she looks better. There's a difference." "That's semantics," my father snapped. "The point is, you're embarrassing Eleanor." "Eleanor is embarrassing herself if she can't handle me succeeding. That's not my problem to fix." I stood up, walked back to my room, left them sitting there in shocked silence. My hands were shaking, but I felt alive, powerful, free. Eleanor came to my door an hour later. "Jenny, can we talk?" "Sure." She sat on my bed fidgeting, same nervous energy I remembered. "Mom and Dad told me about the speech thing. And? I don't want people comparing us again. It always feels like I lose when they do." I looked at her, really looked at her. My sister, the person I destroyed myself trying to protect. In my first life, I'd caved here, apologised, made myself smaller. "That's not my responsibility," I said gently. "I'm not dimming myself so you can feel brighter. That doesn't help either of us. But you're so much better at everything. It's easy for you to say that." "It's not easy. I work hard, really hard. You just don't see it because I hide it so you won't feel bad." She blinked. "You hide it?" "I always have. I downplay my achievements. I don't talk about my struggles. I make everything look effortless so you won't feel inferior. But that's not helping you. It's just teaching you that you can't compete." "I can't compete with you." "Maybe not in the same ways, but you have your own strengths, your own voice. You need to develop those instead of asking me to muffle mine." Her eyes filled with tears. "You've changed." "Maybe." I felt calm, certain. Or maybe I'm just finally done pretending. She left. I didn't chase her, didn't apologise, just returned to my speech and read it again. Every word still felt true, still felt like mine. The next 2 weeks were tense. My parents barely spoke to me. When they did, it was in clipped, disappointed tones. Eleanor avoided me, spending more time at friends' houses. I used the time to think, to plan, to remember everything from my first life and map out how to avoid those same traps. Daniel called one evening. "Hey, want to catch a movie this weekend?" "Actually, Daniel, I think we should talk." "Okay, what's up?" I thought about his betrayal, about finding him with Elena, about all the ways he'd slowly pulled away while making me feel like I was the problem. "I don't think this is working. Us." Silence on the other end. Then, "Where is this coming from? Did I do something?" "You didn't do anything. I just don't think we're right for each other." "Jenny, come on. We've been together for a year. You can't just..." "I can. And I am. I'm sorry if this hurts, but I need to be honest. This is about your parents, isn't it? About the speech thing, you're lashing out. I'm not lashing out. I'm making a choice. He tried to argue, to convince me I was confused or emotional or making a mistake. I listened patiently, then repeated myself. Eventually, he hung up angry. I felt lighter immediately. Graduation day arrived. I wore my gold valedictorian stole and felt no guilt about it. Walked to the podium with my original speech, my real words, and delivered them clearly. I talked about resilience, about finding your voice, about refusing to shrink yourself to fit other people's insecurities, about becoming who you are despite the obstacles, despite the people who ask you to be smaller. The audience was silent, listening, really listening. When I finished, the applause started slowly, then built. People stood. My classmates cheered. Teachers nodded. Even students I barely knew were wiping tears. I stepped down from the podium and felt taller than I'd ever felt before. Eleanor gave her speech next. It was good, the same speech I remembered, but it didn't have the same impact. Not because it was worse, but because mine had set a different tone, had claimed space instead of asking permission for it. She didn't get a standing ovation. The applause was warm but measured. At the reception, people surrounded me, asked for copies of my speech, told me it resonated, said I'd articulated something they'd felt but couldn't name. My parents stood with Eleanor, looking uncomfortable. My father avoided my eyes. My mother kept glancing over like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I didn't go to them, didn't try to smooth things over. Just let the distance exist. Later that evening, my parents confronted me at home. We need to talk about your behaviour today. What behaviour? You embarrassed Eleanor, my mother said. Your speech made hers look small. That's not my fault. I gave the speech I wrote. I didn't sabotage her. You were supposed to revise it, my father said. We asked you specifically. You asked me to diminish myself. I declined. This attitude needs to stop. You're being cruel to your sister. I looked at them both, these people who'd raised me to serve, to sacrifice, to disappear. I'm not being cruel. I'm being fair. Elena has to learn to stand on her own, and you have to learn that asking me to fail so she can succeed isn't love. It's dysfunction. My mother's face crumpled. How can you say that? Because it's true, and I'm done pretending it isn't. They tried to argue, to guilt me, to explain all the ways I was being selfish and unreasonable and hurtful. I listened quietly, then went to my room and pulled out the acceptance letter from the cross-country university. In my first life, I'd turned it down, chosen state, chosen proximity to Elena and Daniel, chosen everyone's comfort over my own dreams. Not this time. I called the admissions office the next morning, asked if my acceptance still stood. They said yes, enthusiastically. I accepted on the spot. When I told my parents, my mother actually gasped. That's across the country. I know. But Eleanor is going to state. You were going to room together. Eleanor can room with someone else. She'll be fine. We won't help you financially, my father said. His voice was hard, punishing. If you make this choice, you're on your own. I have a full scholarship. I'll manage. Jenny, please, my mother tried. Think about what you're doing. Think about your sister. I've thought about her my whole life. Now, I'm thinking about me. Eleanor cried when I told her. Real tears, genuine pain. You're leaving me, after everything. I'm not leaving you. I'm choosing myself. Same thing. Her voice was bitter. You're abandoning me? No, I'm living my life. You're welcome to live yours. She looked at me like I was a stranger. In a way, I was. The Jenny she knew, the one who always yielded, always sacrificed, had died on a bridge in another timeline. This Jenny was different. This Jenny chose herself. Summer passed in preparation. I worked 2 jobs, saved money for expenses beyond the scholarship. My parents maintained their cold distance. Eleanor stopped trying to talk to me. I felt no guilt, just clarity. Moving day arrived. I packed my car with everything I owned. My parents stood in the driveway, arms crossed, faces set in matching expressions of disappointment. "Last chance to change your mind," my father said. "I'm good." "You'll regret this," my mother added. "You'll be alone. You'll realise family matters more than pride." Maybe, but I doubt it. I hugged them both briefly, more out of obligation than affection. Got in my car and drove away. Watched them shrink in my rearview mirror until they disappeared. The drive took 2 days. Long stretches of highway, cheap motels, diner coffee. Each mile felt like freedom, like possibility. The university was everything I'd hoped. The campus sprawled green and beautiful. The program was rigorous and challenging. My classmates were brilliant and driven and saw me clearly. I thrived, made friends easily, real friends who liked me for who I was, not what I could do for them. Joined study groups and clubs. Let myself be visible and unapologetic about my achievements. No one here knew the old Jenny. The small one. The one who existed in shadows. First semester flew by in a blur of classes and research and discovery. I found myself laughing more, relaxing more, being more. Elena called occasionally, brief, stilted conversations where she told me about state, about her classes, about how different everything was without me. "I had to learn to study on my own," she said once. "It was hard at first, but I'm figuring it out." "That's good," I said. Meant it, I miss you sometimes, the old you. The old me was killing herself to keep you comfortable. Silence. Then, "I'm starting to understand that." Progress, I thought. Small, but real. My parents called less frequently. Duty calls checking in. They asked about my classes in distant voices and mentioned Elena constantly. How stressed she was, how she was struggling, how much harder everything was without me there to help. I listened politely and offered no solutions. She needed to figure it out. They needed to let her. Second semester, I won a research position in a prestigious lab. My professor called me in to tell me personally, said my work showed exceptional promise. I called home to share the news. My mother answered, "That's nice, honey," she said, distracted. "Listen, Eleanor is having a hard time with her chemistry class. Could you maybe tutor her remotely? Video calls or something?" No. I have my own coursework, my own research. Elena needs to figure out herself or find a tutor there. "But you're so much better at explaining things." "Mum, no. Elena is an adult. She can handle this." My mother sighed. "You've become very hard." "No, I've become very boundaried. There's a difference." She hung up without saying goodbye. I stared at my phone for a moment, then set it down and went back to my research. Felt no guilt, just peace. Junior year, everything crystallized. My research was published in a major journal. My professors talked about graduate programs, about my future in glowing terms. I was offered opportunities I'd never dreamed of, and through it all I stayed grounded, present, myself. Eleanor called one night, her voice different, older. "Jenny, can we talk? Really talk?" "Of course." "I broke up with someone recently. This guy I was seeing, he reminded me of Daniel, actually." My heart skipped. "You dated Daniel?" "Yeah, for about a year after you left." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "I thought I loved him. Thought he was different with me. But he wasn't. He was just exactly what you would have seen if you'd stayed." "I'm sorry that happened." "Are you? You don't sound sorry." "I'm sorry you're hurt. I'm not sorry you learnt something you needed to learn." She was quiet for a long moment. I get it now. Why you left? What you were trying to tell me. I was using you as a crutch, letting you carry me. And when you weren't there anymore, I had to learn to walk on my own. And did you? I'm learning. It's hard. I fall a lot, but I'm learning. Good. I miss you, she said. The real you. The one I'm finally getting to know. We talked for 2 hours. About her growth. About my life. About the space between us and how it had been necessary. It wasn't reconciliation exactly, but it was real, honest, a beginning. Senior year, my parents visited campus. They had asked to come, said they needed to see me. I agreed, curious about what had changed. We met at a coffee shop near campus. They looked older, greyer, worn in ways I didn't remember. We've been in therapy, my mother said after we'd ordered. Family therapy, Eleanor insisted. That's good. The therapist helped us see some things, my father said. His voice was careful. About patterns, about how we treated you, what we asked of you. My mother's hand shook as she lifted her cup. We didn't see it at the time, didn't understand that we were asking you to sacrifice yourself for Elena's comfort. We thought we were helping both of you. We were wrong, my father said simply. We're sorry, Jenny. Truly sorry. I absorbed the words. Let them settle. They didn't heal everything, couldn't heal everything, but they mattered. Thank you for saying that. We'd like to be in your life again, my mother said. If you'll let us, not the way things were, something new, something healthier. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, I said honestly, but maybe we can start small, build slowly. That's more than we deserve, my father said. We talked for another hour about my research, about their therapy, about Elena's growth. The conversation was awkward but genuine. When they left, my mother hugged me, held on longer than usual. I'm so proud of you. I should have said it more. I'm so proud of who you've become. The words cracked something inside me. I let myself feel the complicated mix of grief and relief and tentative hope. Thank you, I whispered. Graduation approached. My second one, though only I knew that. This time there were no speeches to rewrite, no one to outshine. Just me, in my doctoral regalia, accepting my degree with honours and a research award. My family came, all of them, parents and Elena sitting together in the audience. When my name was called, they stood and cheered. After the ceremony, Eleanor found me outside the hall. She wore a sundress and genuine smile. Hey, congratulations, you earned this. Thanks for coming. Of course, you're my sister. She paused. I'm proud of you, for what it's worth. I'm proud of who you became when you stopped trying to be what I needed. I hugged her, brief but real. We're both growing. That's what matters. Yeah, we are. My parents took us to dinner. We laughed, told stories. The conversation flowed easier than it had in years. There were still gaps, places where old wounds hadn't fully healed, but there was also warmth, connection, hope. That evening, I walked through campus one last time. Found myself at the garden bridge, the one that arched over the pond filled with water lilies. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. I thought about the other bridge, the other timeline. How close I'd come to believing that darkness was my only option. I thought about the second chance I'd been given, how I'd used it to reclaim myself, to rebuild from scratch, to refuse every pattern that tried to pull me back. I thought about both graduation speeches, the one I'd surrendered and the one I'd reclaimed, how the words themselves mattered less than the decision to speak them, to take up space, to refuse to diminish. A colleague joined me on the bridge. We'd become close over the years, someone who saw me clearly and appreciated what they saw. "Beautiful evening," they said. "Yes. You look peaceful." I am. And I was. Deeply, truly peaceful. We stood together in comfortable silence, watching the light fade over the water. The world felt balanced, open, full of possibility. I'd given everything once, sacrificed myself completely, died trying to be what everyone needed, but I'd come back. Reborn not into a different life, but into my own life, finally mine to live. I hadn't sought revenge, hadn't tried to destroy anyone. I'd simply removed myself from patterns that were destroying me, and in doing so created space for all of us to grow. My parents were learning, Eleanor was learning, I was still learning, and that was enough. The water reflected the darkening sky, perfect and still. I felt whole, complete, free. This time, when I walked away from the bridge, I walked toward something, toward my future, toward myself, and I never looked back.